Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here and giving me a stage for telling a bit about my research in the past, but maybe also in the future. And I was invited also by Han and Simon to come over here. They had to come all the way to north of Germany to invite me personally. So they had to come to my home island, which is in Nordfriesland, called Föhr. And it's very similar to this region, so they don't feel so foreign when they come to Föhr. Before we had to go to the dangerous territories of Samsø in the Baltic. So so I want to give you a bit of overview of what I'm doing. I'm actually from Aalborg University, where I did my PhD on this topic, but I'm originally also from a Frisian island, so I'm very happy to be here and maybe in the future connect these ideas. So I want to give you a brief journey from energy planning, what we do in Aalborg, to islands, and maybe also backwards, what we get from islands into energy planning in the end. So the background is sustainable energy planning. That's the department I work in, where we do energy system analysis and modeling. In my PhD that you see also on the picture there on the right, I worked on the SMILE project, to which Mark gave you a little introduction, and I will maybe fill in some gaps, or maybe you will get some repetition, but maybe it gives you an idea of what we actually do in SMILE. And then finding out what is the connection between sustainable energy planning and modeling and the role of islands in that. And finally, the destination could be the potential future research and the future of islands in this regard. So I was working a lot with SMILE. So we're looking at islands here in a general perspective, when we look at islands in energy planning and what can we learn from them. So I'll get into this a little bit, and also the picture shows me in Aalborg, which I've used this picture when it was online presentations, when the university in the background was actually closed, but they had this nice art installation, and I could take a picture with the letter Ö, which is the letter for island in Denmark. So this is what we'll be talking about. So sustainable energy planning at Aalborg University is not so much energy engineering or energy technology, but it's the whole concept of climate change and energy transition and how sustainable energy is part of that. So we look both at the historical but also technical and contextual aspects. Some of the images I added to the slide are that in the 70s, the fossil fuel prices increased quite a lot also in Denmark, so they were forced to invest in alternatives. So the wind power became a big thing in Denmark. But we don't just look at the technology of wind power, but also how it fits into the energy system and how we can actually implement it. So we look at different sustainable perspectives from economic sides, of course, but also environmental and social aspects into this. And eventually, what we come up with is also a smart energy system, so where we combine not just sustainable aspects, but also the different parts of the energy system in a smart way. And other things we do include, of course, not just economics, but socioeconomics, public regulations, market development, life cycle assessments, jobs, and so on. Specifically, the tool, we talked about tools before, the tool that we're doing or that we're making, working with is energy system analysis and the modeling, and then afterwards we look into the implementation. So we see on this image that I've been using now quite some time, that we try to connect the different energy systems from electricity to heating, industry, maybe also cooling, and see where can we use waste products. So somebody's waste might be somebody else's resource. Where can we make use of synergies, improve energy efficiency, and use renewables in any way that is possible. So we look from the production side, from the technology on the one hand, but also to the conversion and to the consumer. So how do we supply not just electricity demands, but also heating demands, transport demands, and so on. And that is also what we try to simplify in the model at the bottom of the picture. So we look at what happens in this energy system if we change one aspect. For example, if we introduce electric vehicles or hydrogen, what happens in the end of the energy system that we need to be aware of? And this is an open access tool that we've developed in my research group, and we've also used this in a lot of different contexts, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So the idea is that this is supposed to support energy transitions, that we give a plan, we give a strategy of how the energy system can look like, or how does it look now, and how can it develop in the future. And we do this both on national scale, we work a lot with Denmark, but also European scale, but also local systems are even more important, because there we can actually see what happens locally. Which brings me to the project that I was involved in, which is the SMILE project. In case you missed it earlier, it stands for Smart Island Energy. Of course, Mark introduced to you that we are testing and demonstrating different parts of technologies, but also reflecting how does it actually work. Then from our sustainable energy aspects, we also look into the context locally, how to implement it, and how does it fit with the reality on the islands. So we have the three demo islands, Samsø, Orkney, and Madeira. So for example, how does the wind power on Orkney, how can it best be used locally? On Samsø, we have new PV on the marina buildings, or on Madeira, we have tourist vehicles now charged with renewable electricity. And then we'd look at how does this actually fit into the community, what kind of market structures do we need, and what policies maybe need to change so that it fits also to islands, so this whole energy transition perspectives. So what I ended up looking into in my PhD was then the role of why do we do modeling, and what can we learn from islands. So of course we have this energy system in a very simplified box diagram, and then if it is on an island, it's even simplified yet. So we can see even better maybe what changes if we improve something, or if electric vehicles are really a solution. And then, as Mark also said, that afterwards maybe we can roll it out and scale it up, and find out what are the potentials of this innovation, and how do we need to coordinate it maybe in a different way. So by doing it with islands, we can also strengthen these locations that are usually not really on the agenda when we talk on national energy policy making or energy planning, but we can actually include the islands and their local conditions, and maybe also the people. So it's not just these boxes, it's a lot more that we need to be doing. So hopefully also with the input from these islands, we can improve the way we do our modeling, and the way we can achieve our energy transitions that are so important to do. But also I want to give the option for islands to influence the developments of energy planning and the transition. So when we look at the diagram, if we look at it a bit closer, we can actually see that there's a lot of numbers and a lot of details maybe that we're missing if we only look at it from a top-down perspective. And then also when we compare and include different islands and different technologies, we get even a better picture, and we see that they're all the same, they're all islands, and we all have energy demands and production and resources, but in the end, some things work better in some areas than in others. So hopefully, the idea is that islands can also influence the future of this modeling. After all, there's a lot of islands here in the Netherlands, across the North Sea also, Germany, Denmark, even the UK. Worldwide, there are so many islands. Denmark has actually 70-something islands which are inhabited. So it is a country of islands, but they don't really consider it as such. But what if they would do? What if we look at the islands in a different way, that they're actually quite an important role to have in energy making? So we know that sustainable energy and the energy transition can be difficult on islands and in remote regions, but maybe we can work together and work, how can we get this top-down support, but actually action from the bottom up. And that's also the images trying to illustrate, what if we look at islands in a different way from national energy making, instead of this top-down advice from the capital, This is what the islands should also follow suit, but what if they actually work together and influence policy making, and then maybe our puzzle of the energy transition becomes quite transparent. Yeah, so this could, of course, also lead to further research. That's one of the reasons that I'm here, that we include islands in sustainable energy planning, that we do planning with islands, both for islands, but also with islands, so there's a lot of wordplay you have to be careful about. The cross-sector aspects are also important to consider in your future energy plan maybe, but also the cross-border collaboration. I think that's why I'm here. I live in Denmark, I'm from Germany, and I'm very happy to be here to find out what are the similarities and where can we work together. And then finally that we can get some contributions from and also with islands and to strengthen the energy systems and be part of this energy transition. And maybe we can look into these Dutch or Danish artificial energy islands, but also general North Sea energy islands, what is out there and what can we learn from, and what is actually, which direction should we go from for energy planning. Then we also know that the marine energy sector is often forgotten. The big politicians, they sit somewhere where there's no water in sight, but we live in the middle of it often. There's energy around, and there's also demands to get through the water to the islands. So when we look at the island, in the picture we see the view of Orkney Island from the Scottish mainland. What do we see? Like, can we actually get influence from islands to energy planning, or is it only the top-down approach of energy planning to the islands? So in the future, hopefully, islands can be working together with energy planners. They can help and also learn from each other in this regard. Of course, I know that you're all working on this already, but maybe now I give you some even more motivation to do so. Try to combine new research areas also with the local problems, so make it better, more inclusive, this approach. We talk about today that we go from good practices to next practices. Maybe we go back to see what is actually the relation across the North Sea. I noticed back home, across the water, it's 250 kilometers, and if I go by land, it's 500, so it's twice as much to make a connection there. And finally, use the energy that we have on this island. There's a lot of innovation drive, there's ideas, and the picture also shows this is the tidal streams around the Orkney Islands. And I know now you're also looking into tidal projects in Ameland. And so, yeah, some ideas of how we can use this energy and energy planning in a sustainable way. I think that's it, yes. So this is one of our next destinations. So hopefully, yeah, look into the role of energy and maybe modeling and planning in a sustainable way for your next island innovation. And this is a picture of the island when you get to Før. So we made it across the North Sea. We also speak Frisian there, so Føl Tank. It's thank you a lot for having me.